Hi everyone, this is Kerim Baran with Solar Academy, and I have with me Justin Red of Emmvee. Emmvee is a relatively new name in the US market, in the US solar module market. And today we're going to talk a little bit about Justin's background. Emmvee, a manufacturing company out of India, which is making inroads into the US solar market, and what makes Emmvee unique. Justin, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Carol.
So, Justin, tell me a little bit about your story. You used to be, from our previous conversations, I remember you used to be with Sharp in the olden days, in the very early days of like 2010s, I believe, operating in the solar market.
Yeah,
Then you were an entrepreneur for a while, and then you got recruited back into the solar industry to lead MV's entry into the US. So, can you
that's
tell
right.
us a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure.
Or maybe go back even further if you want.
Yeah,
You know.
so I've been in the solar industry in one form or another for the last 13 or 14 years.
Hmm.
Started out in the state of Tennessee. I was in grad school at the University of Tennessee working on my master's. And at the time,
What was your master's in?
my master's is in HR. So I have a bachelor's in accounting and a master's in HR.
Nice.
And so at the time I was, when you work for a university, you go to grad school at
Yep.
no cost, no tuition. And so at the time I was working in the accounting office of the Office of Research while I was getting my master's degree. And this was in around 2009 after they had passed the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. And
Hmm.
so the state of Tennessee was awarded, let's say about 50 million or so dollars, maybe it was a little bit more, to create the Tennessee Solar Institute and
Yep.
to expand the solar value chain in the
Yep.
state of Tennessee. And so this was a program that was out of Commissioner Kisber's office, who is, as you know, is chairman of Silicon Ranch. And
Hmm.
so we worked closely with his office to create two different programs. There was the solar installation program where we provided a per kilowatt incentive for commercial installations. And then
Yep.
there was what we call development grants to businesses in the solar value chain. So whether that was Sharp, AGC Glass at the time, Shoals, Hemlock, Vocker. That fund was purely focused on workforce development, technical assistance, and then just making sure that these manufacturers completed the solar value chain. The vision was to have everything that you need to manufacture solar modules in the state of Tennessee. And so that's how I got my start in the solar industry. And then from there, I was recruited over to Sharp. And so that was my first sales role. And so, Sharp is a household name. They were killing it. I was crushing it. And then after that, Sharp ended up closing the doors of the Memphis factory, kind of pulled back from the solar business, and so from there I had a brief stint at Solagent before the changes with Itochu, and then I spent the next I'd say 5 or 6 years with a company called Styon, which is a six thin film module manufacturer. So I've sold
Wow.
crystalline modules, I've sold thin film modules. There started out as a territory rep director on the East Coast. Quickly went up the ranks, VP of Global Sales, opened new markets in Australia, Turkey, the Benelux area, and then obviously, having sales here in the US.
Wow.
And so thin film's a tough product to manufacture. And
Yeah.
I mean, people could argue there's only one company that's gotten it right, and that's First Solar, and they're still
Solar.
in
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
But other than First Solar, nobody's quite had the magic formula, and it really just comes down to the manufacturing process. I mean, you've got to turn that line on and just let it run. It can't go up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Got it.
yeah.
I seem to remember you were involved more in the operational background, or like the operational function at Sharp too, or were you ever on the manufacturing side or in the factory or?
Yeah, so by me being from Memphis at the time,
Yep.
again, I was still living in Tennessee, and so Sharp's manufacturing facility was in Memphis. So my office was there at the factory. It was
Oh,
literally
okay.
two doors down from the president of the factory,
Nice. That's a
Kumamara
good place to be
Kumamara's
as a
son.
sales guy, I guess.
No, yeah, for sure. It was
Yeah.
it's great to be able to walk out to the floor, see the factory in motion, see the products being made. If I had an order that needed to get out, I could literally go right down to the logistics
Yeah.
department and say, "Hey, let's get this on the truck now." And then also just to see the the people at the factory, the jobs that were created as a direct result of the sales that myself and my team were out
We're doing
closing. Yeah, so that was
nice,
full circle for me.
nice. And so now here we are, you leading Emmvee's entry into the US market. And you also had an entrepreneurial stint in between. So I guess Emmvee recruited you to, I'm assuming, is that the
Yes.
case?
So
Yeah.
and the so after Styon, after Coastal Ventures decided to shut down Styon, I went to another six thin film manufacturer, Sunflare, which was not. I mean, we did do commercial installations. It was a flexible thin film, peel and
Yeah.
stick adhesive product for flat commercial rooftops. Spent 2.5 years there, and then the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
And at the same time, well, actually before, because Sunflare is a Chinese company, which was a subsidiary of Kinfine, which is
Mhm.
a furniture manufacturer based in China. So they manufacture furniture in China, then they come to sell it in stores like Target and Walmart. Sunflare was a subsidiary of that company, but in 20, I forget what year this was, 2019, when the Trump administration introduced tariffs on all things China,
Yeah.
that affected the business. The pandemic affected the business. People in the beginning weren't necessarily spending a lot on furniture. Obviously, solar was shut down. Solar construction
Yeah.
was shut down for
Yeah.
a while there, and so it was just came to a point to where it was unsustainable. And so
Yeah.
Sunflare, they're still around now. They kind of focus on residential stuff.
Yeah.
But I just took a step back from the industry, focused on the restaurant that I owned in Atlanta, trying to figure out and navigate that business in the pandemic. And
Yeah.
I would say I was out for about 2 years. And then I
Yeah.
got a call from Krishna Murthy, who is our head of HR in India. And we had
Yeah.
a conversation. He said, I want to talk to you about Emmvee. I'm like, I've never heard of this company, Emmvee. Same reaction
Yeah.
that most of our customers give us when we reach out to
Yeah.
them. So, I did my research, went to the website first, quick Google searches, started asking around, had a call with Suhas, which is who I report to, our president and CEO. Just picked his brain, asked him about the plans, expansion plans, plans for U.S. manufacturing. Where have they sold? Who have they sold to? Just all the things that you would want to know before making the jump to join a company. And the things that I heard intrigued me. I was very interested in the fact that we
So tell
manufacture.
me their story because we talked briefly about this in the
Yeah.
previous conversation. They started out of a hardware store business, if I remember
Yes.
correctly.
Yep. So 31
Yeah,
years ago, Suhas's dad owned a hardware business, and at this point, I think Suhas was just a small child, or maybe wasn't even born then.
yeah,
But his dad owned a hardware store in India,
yeah,
and they had frequent challenges with power outages
yeah,
and with getting hot water. And
yeah.
so from that, he started making solar hot water heaters. And so that was the first product that we manufactured 31 years ago,
Hmm.
and we still manufacture them today, mainly for the
Yeah,
Indian market because it's very popular there.
yeah,
And then in 2006 is when they put in the first PV module line. At the time, it was the first PV module line in India. The
yeah,
whole
yeah.
country of India. It was 15 megawatts, fully automated
Wow.
for the most part. And from there, they've just kind of consistently and conservatively grown the business. No debt, over $1 billion in assets.
Wow.
So
That's incredible.
they've done a really good job of slow and steady building the business, doing the right deals, not
Mhm.
taking out a bunch of debt, and putting the business in a position to where the things that you and I know that we experience in the solar business could take a company out if they're not in the right financial position. And so
Yeah,
I'm glad that we, like I say, virtually no debt, over $1 billion in assets.
that's a really unique position in the solar industry for a
It
module
is. It is.
manufacturer.
It
It's
is. And
incredible.
for it to be
It's
from a privately owned company as well.
Yeah, well, you got to be privately owned to do that because that's like
Yes.
the old mindset of, entrepreneurs from 50, 100 years ago,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
you know. So very cool. So what's the scale of that 15 megawatt line now? You guys started in '06,
Yep.
2006 with a 15 megawatt line, first line in India. And now how big is the operations? And is India the only place of manufacturing or do you guys go beyond as well?
So right now, India is the only place of manufacturing. That 15 megawatt line is what we call now Unit One, and that 15 megawatts is now 750 megawatts. And so
Wow.
that's at our HQ office. So when I go to India, my office is steps away from that 750 megawatt module
Which
line.
which metro area in India, by the way?
It is in Bangalore, so it is in South India.
Yeah.
Yep, South India. And so what we call Unit 2 is our newer factory. It is probably an hour from the office,
Hmm.
and it is where we have our other 2.25 gigawatts online and our cell manufacturing as well. So in
Wow.
total, we have 3 gigawatts of module assembly in India
Yeah.
between Unit 1 and
Hmm.
Unit 2. And then we've got 1.5 gigawatts of cell manufacturing in India at Unit 2.
Wow. That's impressive. So that is north of $1 billion in sales, I'm sure, for
Yes, we
for
are
the
getting
solar.
there. Yeah, we are getting there. We're new to the US market. Prior to my joining Emmvee, Emmvee
Hmm.
had focused on the India market, Southeast Asia, Germany. We've got a sales office in Germany. And then so they brought me on board after. So they originally entered selling through distribution with Solgen, which I think was a sound strategy. And then they brought me on board to build out the team here in the US and lay the groundwork to build the demand to justify
Yeah.
building a factory here in the US.
Wow. So you guys are building a factory here in the US. So
So yeah. So we haven't
tell
made
me.
any official announcements yet, but we have been previewing it to people. We've selected a site. It's actually already constructed building, ready to go. So in terms
Wow.
of time frame, wouldn't take
Hmm.
that too long to get up and running. We've got equipment on order, ready to go when we say ship. So right now we're just in the process. So right now what we're focused on is building the demand here domestically in the U.S. to pre-fill
Yeah.
or find an off-taker for the factory here in the
Nice.
U.S.
So when you go and talk to US customers, who are your key customers? You mentioned you entered the market with the Sologent distribution, Sologent as your key distributor,
Mhm.
um, which I know really well from my old distribution days. We used to partner and compete with Sologent at the same time,
Okay.
as many
Yep. Yep.
companies do in distribution. And but I assume you target utility scale developers as well as commercial and maybe some residential. So how do you go to market and what does that picture look like when you talk to customers? And yeah, let's first
Yeah.
talk about that, and then I have a follow-on question on what are the like key unique elements of Emmvee that makes Emmvee different for these customers to
Yeah.
consider.
Yeah. So we sell across all three markets: residential, CNI, utility scale.
Mhm.
Residential, we mainly service through distribution, unless it's
Mhm.
one of the larger resi developers, who do couple hundred megawatts a year.
Yeah.
We would sell to them directly. And then in the CNI space, we take direct relationships with customers of size, project customers, people who are doing big box stores, doing restaurants, hotels.
Yeah.
And then we're also in communication and have been in late stage negotiations with most of the top utility scale developers here in the US. So right now we're on a mission, like I say, building demand, building the brand. People, although we're a 30-year-old company, we're a 30-year-old company that no one's ever heard of. And so
Yeah.
right now
Yeah.
that's the mission. The mission is building the brand, getting the name out there, closing deals, and just doing it brick by brick.
It sounds like you're one of the biggest solar companies that nobody has heard of, and you're also one of the most probably bankable companies that nobody has heard of, but doesn't have the Bloomberg tick mark, if I remember from our previous conversation.
Yes. That has been that has been a point of frustration for simply because there are customers who fully 100% rely on a Bloomberg New Energy Finance listing for who they
Right.
are and are not going to do business with. But that's just surface level. I mean, even if you go to Bloomberg New Energy Finance's website, and then you can look at the criteria. It's 6 projects, 1.5 megawatts or larger, financed by 6 different banks with non-recourse financing. Got to be announced in a press release. But those metrics have no tie to the quality of the manufacturer, the balance sheet of the manufacturer, and they'll even tell you on their website, this information, this list is not to assess the quality of this company or the products that they sell.
Mm.
So I think that what we found is that there are a set of players in the market who do a deeper dive. They're talking to CEA. They're talking to
Yeah.
STS. They
CEA
are
being can
Clean
you
Energy Associates. Hmm.
yeah,
They're
which is
talking.
a advisory firm for US developers buying from offshore, modules from overseas
Yes, yes. So they
manufacturers. Yeah.
provide consulting services. They come out to the factory, they do a factory audit, and then they give those results directly to the developer. They'll tell them, "Hey, this is what we saw. We think this about the company. We think this about the product."
Yeah.
And then even DNV GL. So they've done a technology and bankability report. So, like I said, I think there's a subset of customers who move beyond the surface and actually look under the hood. We provide all these documents to them. We've had a factory audit by DNVGL. We've had a factory audit by CEA. We've had a traceability done
The
by
NBG,
STS.
the NGBL being Dun& Bradstreet.
DNV, so DNV is an engineering firm. GL just is
Oh,
like LLC, how LLC is here in the
yeah, yeah.
US. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
So they're an engineering firm. Similar, I think their main competitor might be like Black and Veatch.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so
They do their own studies and share them.
yeah, they do their own studies. So, once we provide all this information, we've got our full results from PVL. We got high marks across the board. So we provide them the PVL report, the DNVGL report. They can talk to CAA about us. They can they can get the traceability report from STS. So
Got it.
these are the items that people should be using, if they're completing proper due diligence and
Yeah.
determining which module they want to work with.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Got it. And can you also tell me a little bit about the global reach of, or the global split between your 3 gigawatts of production? What percent of that is India right now? How much of it is outside of India? What are the key other markets
Yeah,
beyond the US and India? And how is that going to also change in the coming years?
yeah. So it varies, and it varies based on what contracts we go out and sign. So right now we just signed a 350 megawatt deal that we've got to supply. It's not in the U.S. It's outside the U.S. that we've got to supply beginning in January of next year through I want to say around like May.
Mhm.
So that we're going to take a lot of our capacity and send it there. But on average, where we try to stay at is around 35-40% in the US and then the remaining elsewhere. But that's not a hard parameter. We can change as needed. Like I say, the goal is to build the demand here so we can finalize the factory here so we're able to service our customers from our modules here. And then, should we need to dip into the capacity from the India factory, we've got that available to us.
Got it. And what do you say to folks that have a hard time trusting an Indian manufacturing and an Indian company buying modules from you? And along with that, like what are the specific things that make Emmvee unique
Yeah, I
in
would
that?
just say that based on our track record, we couldn't have been around 30 years. We had a bad reputation, or we weren't doing business in the proper way. Also, those third-party assessments are really important. Nobody's going to vouch for a company that they don't think is going to conduct business in the proper way. But I always tell customers all the time, just kick the tires, look under the hood, come to the factory. We'll bring you out to India. We'll give you a factory tour. You'll get to walk the line, see all the quality control checks. Or even if you have a small project, if you can't make it over to India, even if you have a small project, we tell customers all the time, if you've got a portfolio of 500 megawatts, and you're a little skittish about doing business with us, allocate 50 megawatts of that 500 megawatts. See how the transaction goes. See how the product performs in the field. We stand behind our business practices and then also our products. I certainly wouldn't be here and put my name and reputation on the line if it weren't the
Yeah.
right thing to do.
Well, Justin, thank you so much for all this information. Great content on Emmvee and great level of detail on your operations. And any last words that we should cover in this session?
I would just say that if we haven't reached out to whoever's watching this podcast, if we haven't already reached out to you, feel free to reach out to us. You can reach me at Justin at mvee.in. We'd love to talk to you, chat with you. Doesn't have to be salesy. Just we want to know who everybody is, what everybody's doing. And again, build the brand and just let you know that even if we don't do business today, that doesn't mean we can't do business tomorrow.
Right. Well, thanks again, Justin. Thank you for all this information.
Thank you.